From my point of view, the Jedi are evil!
Anakin, I find your assertion that the Jedi Order are ontologically evil to be beneath you. You well know the axioms of the Jedi Order are to help others and serve the will of the Force, which I would argue places the Order in excellent standing from a deontological perspective, as, assuming one takes as their own personal axioms that minimizing harm to sentient life throughout the galaxy is a moral good, then it is obvious the Jedi Order is, itself, good. Similarly, if we examine the Jedi Order through the lens of virtue ethics, again, we are forced to come away with a positive impression. The Jedi, after all, are notorious for acting selflessly, promoting the well-being of others even at the expense of their own. What could be more virtuous? Considering this, unless promoting the suffering of sentient beings is one of your axioms, or else you think of killing Jedi as an innate good, which as an aside would make for an irrational worldview leading to a sad, pathetic life where you hunt Jedi and do little else, then I must assume your objection to the Jedi philosophy comes on utilitarian grounds. Therefore, Anakin, I will analyze the Jedi Order utilizing utilitarian ethics, and then compare it to the Sith Code, to see whether your assertion the Jedi are evil is validated. The only possible epistemic justifications one could make to support the aforementioned argument are that the Jedi Order are corrupt to the extent that they are causing the suffering of millions or more sentient beings, or otherwise misunderstanding the will of the Force to such a degree that it is causing suffering on such a scale. Further, one could argue that the will of the Force is itself evil, and needs to therefore be opposed, hence why the Sith choose to bend it to their will. Given that you've actively murdered children, it necessarily follows you consider the Jedi to be so evil any aspect of them must be terminated. Or else your killing children, who are typically understood to act with less culpability as moral agents, is itself evil. Ergo, we must examine each of these arguments in turn, Anakin. First, the assertion the Jedi Order are corrupt. Now, I happen to know Yoda was siphoning credits supplied by the Republic for his special parties, which I was never invited to, incidentally. I know this because one time I caught him with several boxes of death sticks and Kowakian rum, so I asked him what he was doing. He just told me,
"The party I'm having. Know about that. You would not. Nerd."
Then he shoved me into a locker.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Regardless, I accept the Jedi Order had elements of corruption. However, I put to you, these could have been rooted out instead of wiping the Jedi Order out by killing everyone. Especially because this seemed like your go-to. Second, the suffering of millions of sentient beings. Insofar as the Jedi Order has caused suffering, I'd raise that we'd alleviated the suffering of vastly more, and therefore, utilizing the aforementioned utilitarian lens, it can be said the Jedi Order are good. Finally, we arrive at the consideration of the Force to be evil, and that it must be utilized as a tool rather than following its will. Hence, you're aligning yourself with the Sith. The Force does tend toward the destruction of the dark side, as we can see with the prophecy of the Chosen One. Right, well, regardless, the Force tends to the destruction of the dark side, so the Sith opposing it makes sense. However, we must ask ourselves, what is it that the Sith use the Force for? A cursory glance at the Sith Code reveals that the strong should destroy the weak. Now, assuming your personal axioms are to ensure a better galaxy for sentient beings, then this fails from a deontological point of view, as certain species are necessarily weaker than a being strong in the dark side of the Force. Similarly, from a utilitarian point of view, the Sith philosophy pursues strength as means to domination as an end in and of itself, which again fails the aforementioned axiom test. And finally, for virtue ethics, what kind of being lives by a code wherein the strong are expected to destroy the weak? A code where giving into your anger and lashing out, murdering not just the men, but the women and the children too, is lauded. Where cruelty is encouraged and hatred the central thesis. Clearly not a being who wishes to be virtuous. Therefore, we can refute your claims the Jedi are evil, and highlight the fact the Sith are immeasurably worse, and joining them brings no benefit. To put it simply, it's over, Anakin. I have the moral high ground.
I understand why Yoda thought you were a nerd.